Hi guys, Durantula90 here again, and welcome back to my channel. So, following on from my last video that I did on the Lord of the Rings games and why Return of the King, the remaster could be good, I'm going to talk about another Lord of the Rings game that, in my opinion, does not get talked about at all. I haven't seen it being talked about for a long, long time, and it's a game that I absolutely love and almost didn't ever play. And that, of course, is Lord of the Rings: The Third Age.
Nice.
So, I could talk about this game for absolutely ages. Like, this game, oh my god. So, starting off, I nearly never played this game. So, the first time I ever saw gameplay for this was when my twin brother played this game. And I saw it and I thought, and at the time, I wasn't a big gamer because I was still playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So I was kind of not focusing on gaming, so I wasn't really into RPGs or anything like that. And so, when I saw him play this, I was kind of like, it's Lord of the Rings, I guess, but, it doesn't look like the kind of game I'd play because I wasn't really a big fan of RPGs back then. Probably because I didn't understand them as much. So, when I eventually decided to buy this, I watched more gameplay with my twin brother playing it, I got to the point where I really wanted it, and from the moment to which I played it, I wasn't able to put it down. It is so addictive. If I didn't have the backlog of games that I do, I would be playing this right now. The addictive traits for this game is just absolutely unbelievable. And especially for what we've been going through, this is definitely the kind of world you would get lost in. I'll ignore in our current situation. Again, I just can't say too much about it. You start off, and in the game as you're Berethor. You're a man. You're a soldier of Gondor. And you start off, and then you end up at a point where the first battle you're in is against two Nazguls, and you die. This literally is, you have to die. There's no option. The Nazguls are immune to your attacks. And obviously because it's right at the beginning of the game, you've got no bigger attacks. You've got no leadership abilities. So that's it. You're done. And then obviously you get saved by Idriel, who's the elf that you play as in this game. And as time goes on, each character, you get to the point where you get Hadhud, which is the dwarf, and it gets to a point where that's your team for a while, and then you get Elagos, who's a ranger. He was always my favourite. I would play him over Hadhud. My team going through the game was always Berethor, Idriel, and Elagos. It wasn't until the last time I played this game that I actually played as Hadhud, and I actually, agree with my brother now that Hadhud is actually the better out of him and Elagos, and that the best team is Berethor, Idriel, Hadhud, because the way that the team is set out is kind of once you get Hadhud, that is your team, that is your trio that you play as, the whole time, through the beginning parts of the game. All through Moria, and then you get to a point where obviously you meet Elagos, and you get to a point where you kind of choose who you're going to play as. And so again, I would always choose Elagos. Now, the only thing that I would criticize about the game when it comes to the characters is Morwen and Aoden. Now, those are two characters that you get part way through the game, but the problem with that is unlike stuff like Final Fantasy VII, where you get them at a good level and you can kind of build their level up quite easily. With this, when you get Morn and Aoden, it's not easy at all, in the sense that they're just too weak. So by the point you get to the point in the game where you have them both, if you're playing as Berethor, Idriel, Hadhud, or Berethor, Idriel, Elagos, then you've done it. You know, you've got a team, you're comfortable with that team. So, you know, why would you swap in someone who not only is much weaker, obviously because she's, you know, a lot levels less, but because, you know, they have nothing. So, like, Morwen has only melee attacks, so she doesn't have any ranged attacks, but she has thiefcraft, so she can steal certain things. Same with Aodin, but again, you know, they're not great attacks, whereas, like, as you progress, you know, obviously the amount of times you use certain attacks, and then you gain new attacks, and you gain ones that do like 3 hits and 4 hits and 5 hits, you know, and then Idriel's like one of the most important characters because she's the healer. So, like, when you get to the point where you have like Aura of the Valar, Power of the Valar, you know, where you can just not only revive them, but kind of give them like a instant revive with Power of the Valar. Aura of the Valar, excuse me. Power of the Valar is the one where you bring them back to life, whereas Aura of the Valar is the one where you know, once they die, they automatically resurrect. And that's also obviously very important as the game progresses. And, you know, one of the things as well that I think is probably most important is the leaderships and stuff like that with Berethor, because obviously, again, you know, as time goes on, it's such like, obviously the RPG elements kick in, you know, the fact you're learning new, attacks, and you're learning new, like status changes and stuff like that. So with Berethor, it's very important, you know, to protect yourself from getting stunned and giving yourself the possibility to do more critical hits, and, you know, so many things. And obviously it builds up to the bigger things that you get to do, like the biggest attack for Berethor is like Gondor Rampage, where it's like 5 hits, and, you know, you have all these different other leaderships that do so much for your, you know, protects you from spirit damage and stuff like that, which is very important when you fight like dark people using dark magic through the game. And, you know, that's very important, and it's something that, you know, you need to learn, because with Berethor, like, normally when I play it, you know, the first thing you do with Berethor is you do, like 2 or 3 turns, you just do leaderships just to protect your people, and then you start going on the offensive with Berethor. Because with people at Hadhod, like, the biggest thing with Hadhod is he has something called Stone Shield and Mountain Shield. Now, Stone Shield is very early in the beginning, which lets you like protect one person from like melee damage, so, you know, you take no damage whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure it's with range damage as well, I think. So, and then like you get Mountain Shield, which is actually does all of them. Now that costs a lot of action points. It's like 200 action points, which is quite a lot when you get it, but it's definitely worth it. And as you go on to bigger bosses, you know, that's what becomes more important. So all the times I played as Elagos, in some ways it felt like I was limiting myself, because it felt harder to do it with Elagos going through it than it was with Hadhod, because of all his abilities. So like I said, that's why Berethor, Hadhod and Idria are the combined force that you really want to play as. And like, what also makes this game really good is that, like, you're pretty much following on through kind of like all 3 movies, which is really awesome. So, like, you'll fight the Watcher at one point when you get to Moria. You'll, you know, fight on Helena Fields. You know, you'll be fighting Mumakils, you'll be fighting Nazguls, Easterlings. You know, as time goes on, you know, obviously the enemies get harder. There's a lot more to see and do. And, you know, getting all your armor and, you know, better swords and all these other things that keep going. And obviously, like with most RPGs, you know, there are some armor and some weapons that you'll find that won't be as good as the one before. But again, you know, aesthetically, they do, you know, there's never one where you think, there's never a bit of an item that you pick up that you kind of think, oh, you know, it's all designed very well. You know, it's designed very well. So there's not one point where you think that it's terrible. Apart from when if the stats are bad. But yeah, going back on, you know, and you go forward and you do certain things, like, you know, you fight the Balrog with Gandalf. You know, you fight with Aragorn in Helm's Deep, you fight with Gimli in Helm's Deep, you know, you do so many things. And I think if you were going to, like, level up Morwen and Aedirn, like, the best place is Helm's Deep, because Helm's Deep has is instant battle. So, like, when you do it as part of the campaign, like, you go around and, you know, there's all different parts, you know, you're always going to, like, there are lots of sections where you go into, like, three or four battles that are literally one after the other. Like, there's no rest period, there's no thing, and those ones are kind of good because you level up a lot, you know, you get a lot of equipment, you get a lot of items that you use for healing, for, you know, for your action points and all that other stuff. So that's pretty cool. But yes, like, as you press on, you know, and then it's just so much more. Like, every time you go, and it's like you like I said before, you know, you're following in the footsteps of the Fellowship, you know, a step by step, to the point where, you know, the bit where you're coming up to face the Balrog, you know, you're coming close to where, you know, you can see Gandalf facing off against the Balrog on the bridge. And, you know, as you go on, it's just so many different parts. And there are parts of the game, like when you find Elagos, that is kind of for the characters for this game in general, not like for the original characters of Lord of the Rings itself. So that's really cool as well. And, you know, again, it's just like, I just don't hear any people talking about this anymore. Like, this game is such a great game, and obviously it's very cheap. I mean, if you go, like, get an Xbox copy from CEX, it's £1. You know, it's £1 for this. Like, if someone said to me, like, if this game shot up in price and I didn't have it, and it was 20 quid, I would happily, and I mean happily, pay 20 quid for this. Like, it is such a joy to play. It's something that, you know, anytime you think of a good RPG, you know, this is it. You know, everything that comes with this just blows your mind. And like I said, you know, you get to a point where, you know, in Pelennor Fields, that it tells you, you know, that this is the point of no return, you know, so you're going up to the final bits. So usually, like, you'd go back to Helm's Deep, because in Helm's Deep is probably the best place for constant battle. Like, every time you go up and down anywhere, like, the battle, you know, you get into a battle so quickly, so easily, that if you want to get all the leaderships, all the, you know, the spirit powers, all the thiefcraft, or all the other abilities you can possibly get, you know, you keep having battle after battle, you keep grinding through Helm's Deep until you get there. And I think that's what's very important, you know, is that when you get onto the bigger things and they do so much more damage, it's just so much easier, you know. And, you know, when you have certain things, especially when you go against big bosses, because Berethal's leaderships become so important. You know, protecting your people from getting stunned, protecting your people from spirit attacks, protecting them from fear. You know, because obviously all of these things make it so your opponent is just going to keep attacking and attacking and attacking, and you're not going to be able to heal and do this other stuff, because obviously you want Idriel to survive. So usually when you do the big bosses as well, I always cast Aura of the Valar on every single one of my party to make sure that if they die and then as soon as they get revived and Idriel's turn comes up again, I just do it again. No matter how long it takes, no matter how long, you know, the battle takes, or how long, you know, whatever happens, you know you've got your people protected, you know, you're going to do the most damage you can, and you're going to be protected as much as possible with all the stats changes. So, you know, I think just in general, it's just, again, one of those games that, you know, as you progress, obviously, I don't really think there are any bits that I would kind of be like, it's not good, or anything like that. But I mean, one thing you have to do is you do have to check, like, every nook and cranny. Like, there are so many times where, you know, you think you won't be able to go somewhere, but then you can, and there are lots of different side things you do. So, like, there's a main quest in that bit, but there's also some side bits, and obviously it does point it out on the map, but obviously certain bits lead to different parts. So, like, if you feel like you're getting too ahead, like, then you may know that you can just backtrack and find it, because you can also fast travel in between places as well through save points, which is really cool as well. So yeah, I mean, that's so many things that make this game great, and it's like, again, I just don't hear about it anymore. And I think, you know, it's something that's kind of left there. And I mean, I would love this to have a remaster. Like, can you imagine? Like, again, like I said with the Lord of the Rings ones, the controls hold up, the graphics hold up, the combat is great, you know, the turn-by-turn is great. So, you know, if they do a remaster, again, they don't think they need to do a lot to it. You know, the visuals obviously will be upgraded, but just keep it consistent. You know, that's kind of how I feel about this game. You know, if you were gonna remaster it, which I don't really think it will be, because I think, you know, Return of the King is much more, you know, the fans are screaming for that, whereas for this I don't think they really are at all. But I definitely recommend it. You should definitely pick it up. Like I said, Xbox version, £1. You know, you can't get any better than that, really. So that's it, really. Let me know in the comment section below what you guys think of the game, if you've played it, or if you haven't played it, and if you're considering playing it. You know, let me know if there's any questions you have about the game. You know, I think all in all, it's just the kind of game that, you know, a lot of people, once they pick it up, they just won't be able to put it down. I know, you know, I was skeptical about it when I first played it, but I just couldn't stop playing it. It was so addictive. You know, those are the great games that you play when you know you've played it for several hours in the morning, and then you stop to have lunch, and then you think to yourself, I'll play it again for a few hours, to then get lost and be like, oh, it's dark outside. You know, so you've played so much of it. So yeah, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think. Let me know, you know, if you've played it, etc., etc. Hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe down below for more content. Until the next time, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, and take care of yourselves.